Well, hello everybody. Sorry if I'm sniffling in the background, it's allergy season. We're working on our 1981 John Deere 400 Hydrostatic Tractor. What we got to do is we need to change the transmission fluid. And after consulting the manual, it informs me that in order to change the fluid, I have to have all three of those hydrostatic levers functioning, especially the one closest to the dashboard, which would be this one right here. This one runs the lift on the back, and it also operates the mower deck lift. That one's seized. It's been seized for about 2 or 3 years now. I got the other two unseized yesterday. I had to tear the tractor down, and then I used a screwdriver and a hammer and I tapped it on the piston and broke the piston free. Then I started it up and let it run, and then we got engagement now, so we're okay there. So today we're going to disconnect our battery. We're going to pull the battery out so we can get the battery tray down, because when we get the battery tray out, we can access our levers. We got to get this lever unstuck so we can do our transmission fluid. So that's what we're working on now. So I'm gonna grab this battery and get it out of here, and then show you what you got to do to get the battery tray out. Okay, some tools you're going to need to do this job is a combination box end wrench. This is a 1/2 and 7/16. You're going to need a 7/16 socket and a 1/2 inch socket, and a 1/2 inch wrench and a 7/16 regular wrench if you find you're having problems getting your tools in there. So to get the battery tray out, you got 2 bolts to sit down in the inset there. You got 2 bolts on the inside of this panel right here, and then this bolt here bolts onto the battery tray. So in order to get those 2 bolts out, you got to take your side panel off. On this one, side panel is held in by 2 bolts. There's supposed to be a 3rd bolt down in the bottom. That will be dealt with later because it's missing that bolt on both sides. So whatever size your negative terminal is, you want to go ahead and get that. This one's a 7/16. And I grabbed the wrong diameter on that one. So we're going to have to do it by wrench. That's why you have your wrenches nearby. Let's see if I can find my wrenches here. There we go. Grandpa's tools for Grandpa's tractor. How about that for you? You just take this nut loose right here. Now, you want to keep these bolts together. If you have this situation on your tractor where you have your negative terminal grounded to the body like this, I know there's probably an actual correct way to do this, like it's bolted to something else like the battery tray or whatever, but however this bolt comes out on yours, you just want to pay attention to how it, you know, if it's got a washer on one side, if it's got a lock nut on it, stuff like that, make sure that you keep it together. Of course, if it has a lock nut on it, you want to get a replacement lock nut because they're a one and done type deal. Just like on a car. Anytime you have a lock nut, it's one and done. And then, of course, see, normally this bolt would screw in because this has got a thread on the body side of it. You would have a bolt that would thread through this hole, and then you might have this nut on the back side just to hold your battery cable together. But set your hardware up and out of the way. All right, we got to pan you over here to this bolt right here. Gotta get this bolt out. This one's also a 7/16. This one also has a nut on the back side. So I guess I can give you a little bit of a story while we're taking this apart, since it takes a little while to do this. I am the 3rd generation owner of this tractor. My grandfather Bought this tractor brand new in 1981 from the John Deere dealer in Adams Center, New York. Adams Center, New York is up near Canada. It's just outside of a town called Watertown, New York, which you might have known or be familiar with if you're military, because that's the town next to Fort Drum, which is an army base up there. And my grandfather bought this tractor brand new. I don't know how much he paid for it. I do know the attachments he bought with it. He bought the plow. He had the cultivator, which goes on the back. He had the cover, which you put over it for wintertime, so that you could use the plow in the wintertime. This panel's got a spring on the bottom, so you just got to slide it out. And he had wheel weights on it and everything. I took the wheel weights off because they had broken down. I intend to get new wheel weights for it later on. All right, so moving on with our repair here. These two bolts hold the battery tray in. I believe they're 1/2 inch because I had this apart yesterday. So, anywho, he had all the attachments, and of course he's got the 60-inch mower deck, which is around the corner here. That's one of the reasons I'm trying to get this hydraulic system fixed, so I can put the mower deck back on it, because as you probably saw a little bit, I got a 33-inch snapper over here that works great for the side yard, but I got to do some maintenance on it, so I need to have something else to run while I'm doing the maintenance on my snapper. So this tractor here used to mow 4.5 acres up in northern New York, up until it came to my house in 2016 after my grandmother passed away at the age of 88. My mother was living in South Carolina at the time, because that's where my dad's buried. My mother's from New York. That was her mom and dad that owned the land up there. And she told me to bring the tractor home because she was afraid somebody might steal it. And so I had a 2004 Taurus at the time. We put a trailer hitch on it, loaded this up in one of them aluminum U-Haul trailers, and brought it down here, and almost killed my car in the process. And it ran fine when it got here, but see, I neglected to cover it up and everything, so one winter levers got frozen, and tried everything I could to get them unstuck. I couldn't get them unstuck. So yesterday I decided to try a technique. You'll see here in a minute how it worked, but took a big screwdriver and got in between. You'll see on these levers they got a couple rods that go on each side of the actual piston. Then they're connected with a pin and a cotter pin, except for the one I took apart, which I have a clevis pin in it now, or a clip, if you will. So anyway, I got 2 of the 3 to unstick, but yesterday, I don't know if it was the heat or the impatience of it all or what, I couldn't get to that third lever, and the third lever is the one I need to work. So that's what we're going to try to get done today, because this thing needs a fluid change. I don't know when the fluid was changed last. It's supposed to be changed every 100 hours. And then you change your filter every 500 hours. So, you know, if you use it a lot, then you change it a lot. But if you don't use it a lot, then, you know, it is what it is. It's got a twin plug Kohler motor on it, which is this big monster right here. And I'll tell you what, that monster's got some balls to it. I think my top speed on this is somewhere around 15 to 20 mile an hour in high gear. It's got a 2-speed transmission in it. And yeah, pretty stout little tractor here. I like this tractor. So, all right, then we got, let me show you the other bolts. We got all the outside bolts out. Gotta take these 2 bolts loose now. Once we get that done, we can pull the battery tray up and out. And I can show you the linkage system. And then we gotta come up with a plan of how to get the linkage system, how to get something in there to knock the piston loose. Because you can take the hydraulics out of this. I could put it on a bench and I could clean it up that way. Problem with that is you have to unhook all them hydraulic lines. And there's a section in the service manual that says that 2 of the lines are reversed on certain models. I don't know if that would be this model in particular or not. I don't know. But it's John Deere, they do everything based off of serial numbers. So on your plate that sits by your ignition switch, you have a model number, which on this is a C400K. K is your year. And then you have a serial number. Well, you take the serial number and you run it through your book, and on certain parts of the tractor you have certain ways you do it. So that way it's not the same for everything. Okay, and then we got to pick up and out. Pull our battery tray out, set it over here to the side. All right, now I can show you the linkage system here. Let me show you how this works. All right. So you see this knuckle right here is attached to this rod right here that I'm moving. Okay, so you go down to the end of that rod, and that rod takes you to a piston. Well, that piston moves inside of a hydraulic unit, makes your stuff work when you're running the tractor. So what I have to do is find a way to get to that servo, because the top servo I got and the bottom servo I got, I think this one sits in the middle. Yeah, it's wiggling the middle one, I think. So what I got to do is find a way to get something down in there, pop that loose, and then I can rock this lever back and forth a little bit in order to free it up. Then I can put it all back together, start it up, make sure the lever works up and down with the equipment. Then I can shut it off, drain the fluid, put new fluid in it, and I should be good to go for a while. So let me figure this out, and I'll let you know what I come up with. All right, you can kind of see what I'm about to do. I'm down here on this pin right here. So you can cut this zip tie. I put this in to keep the lines together, but you can remove the zip tie if you need to. You see on this pin, you got a rod on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers here. I'm going to push this pin back to where I can get a hold of them with my pliers. I'm going to grab this pin. Try not to drop it on the ground. See how the rods drop? And I dropped the pin. No, I didn't. It's right there in the rod. You can take the pin out so you don't lose it. And the rods drop. At least one of them did. Then you can see the handle moves freely. See, the handle moves fine. It's just that piston stuck. So let me take a look at which piston we're working on. We're working on, oh, it's that middle one way down in there in the center. It's dark and hard to see. So let me go grab a screwdriver and we'll see if we can pop that thing loose. All right, we got our good old screwdriver here and our hammer. I got to locate a good spot to keep my handle in here. It's kind of in between a couple different rods in here, so you just got to kind of make your way in there like that. Give it a couple taps. I just felt it break free. Look at that, it's working again. You can see it bouncing. Excellent. Wish I'd have done that yesterday. I wouldn't have to do it today. All right, so we got our rod freed up. I can almost, yeah, I can push it by hand, which is a whole lot better than what I could do yesterday. All right, so now we got to line up our, we got to get our pin back in. So it goes in the same way it came out. So you put your pin in this way, then you roll your arm up. You might have to move your lever a little bit to line it up, but then you want to kind of put a little bit of tension on there to kind of hold that in position, and just kind of roll it till it falls in. It didn't fall in, that was me just pushing it through. Sometimes you want to have to use the, sometimes they're a pain in the neck to get back in there. Yesterday I had to use my pliers here and kind of persuade it to go in, which I might have to do today. Let me get these cables out of the way here. See if we can pick these cables up and push them over here to the side. You gotta be careful because you got a cooler right here. You don't want to tear into your cooler like somebody already has. I'm gonna have to get me another cooler. Anyway, you bring your rod up. Now that we got the road clear here, we gotta get our electrical out of the way so we can get to it. And we'll put all that back together before we put the battery back in. Take your pliers and you grab a hold of your pin with one hand, and with the other hand you what we're going to do is we're going to push that pin in a little bit further so that I can get it better. Yesterday I had to feed this through. And just take this pin and find out a good spot to stick it in. There it goes, right there. Sometimes take your finger on the back side and you push it through like that. See that? Piece of cake. Now I'm going to go and grab my clip and I'll show you how we finish this up. Alright, got my new clip. That's what we're going to put on instead of the cotter pin. Cotter pin's annoying, I'm going to tell you that right now. Set that little bugger over there where you're going to forget where it is in 5 minutes. Alright, then we got to get the pin through the lever, which is not that hard to do. You got to pick up on it a little bit. This is where having your pliers is a key here, because you want to hold this pin still. When you line up your holes, once you get your holes lined up, your pin falls off. Now, let me see if I can get it better. This thing's a little bit of a pain in the neck to get on, but do this several different ways here. You can hold your pin on the back side and just kind of rock it in and out till it falls into the slot like that. Then you want to hold it with your thumb. Grab your, well, actually you don't need to hold it because it's not going to fall out. Grab your little clip right here, put it in your pliers. Notice I'm using long arm pliers and not like short needle nose or nothing, because long arm pliers are the best thing in the world for this tractor, especially because you're doing a lot of bending over when you're working on this tractor, unless you're short, in which case, you know, whatever works for you. And you take our clip, line it up with our hole, which is right there. Lock it in place. Now I can show you our lever. This is the one we worked on. And we got downward movement, hydraulic power. See, it wants to pull up too, so it's got a stuck spot in there. So what you got to do is with it running, you don't want to do it like this, but with it running, because you got hydraulic fluid that runs through the system. With it running, just flex it back and forth. Make sure that your mower deck arms move up and down. Make sure that if you've got the package on the back like mine, see, that's the package I have back here. That's a trailer hitch. It lifts up and down. Make sure that all that articulates the way it's supposed to. So now that we got all 3 of our rods are unstuck now, see, all 3 of our rods work. This one works. This one works. And now this one's working. We got them unstuck. I guess the key to keeping them unstuck is to use them. Just use them. Even if you don't have a job for them to do, just use them. And then they won't get stuck. See, that's what my problem was. I didn't use them and they got stuck. You see right here? That's from the throttle cable digging into that cooler. It doesn't leak, not yet anyway. But I'm gonna have to source me a cooler for this so I can get that fixed. Of course, I got my fuel line wrapped around this thing, which is probably not a good idea. I redid the fuel line on this a few years ago, back when the fuel pump died. So, got to get the battery tray back in, and then I'll bring you back. We'll start it up and see if everything works. Got our battery tray back in. I took care of the throttle cable problem. I took a 1/4 inch fuel line and cut a little bit off of it, and then I split it down the middle, wrapped it around the throttle cable. So now when it sits on top of this cooler right here, it's not going to be digging into the cooler. And then because we had a problem with the tray sitting down, I took the fuel line off and rerouted it, so now everything's nice and neat and routed like it's supposed to be. I'm going to put that together using one of these. This is an old-fashioned ratchet. You just set it down on there like that. You hold it with your hand on the top, and then you just turn it like this. And you tighten it up. If you've never seen one of these before, these are pretty cool. I got 2 or 3 of them. My grandfather had them. And this is what they did before ratchets were born. See this handle up here, this turns right here. Put your socket down there on the end and you just rotate it like that. Pretty cool little tool actually. So I guess while you're here, we can go ahead and get the battery put back in. Well, no, we can't, because we got to put the sides back on, because our ground's right there. So it might get a little bumpy, kids. But I was telling you about that spring. That's that spring right there. That's a lock that goes in. There's a spot on the frame for it. And then, of course, if you do it right, you'll have a hole line up on the front core support for your bolt to fit through. So the way this fits is you got a little piece of L sheet metal right here where my finger's at. Let me show you here. Zoom in a little bit better there. Right in here, because this is the side of your cooler. And this little tang right here fits inside that spot right there. And let's see, you got to kind of wiggle it around a little bit, but it'll drop in. Except for when you don't want it to. You see, that goes in there. You got to kind of go at it at an angle. And then when it's in place all the way, your exhaust pipe will line up, and your bolt in the back will rock it back and forth till all your bolt holes line up, like that. And you stuff your front bolt in first, that'll hold the front of it up. Then you can put the back bolt in, which is what you're focused on right now, is this bolt right here. I'll kind of rotate you a little bit so you can see a little bit. I'm putting in the bolt in the back. You can't see it. You don't have to tighten it up right now. You just got to get it in, get the nut started so you can hold the side panel up. Now normally you only take the side panels off if you're doing oil changes. I think it's the that side over there. This side over here you have to take off when you do spark plugs, because you got a spark plug that lives up underneath it. So, and grab our other bolt. This is the one we took out earlier. Got to have your flat washer up on the end, otherwise it won't go through. Now I do intend to get the correct hardware for this tractor, and I do intend, and it will be done, to rebuild this tractor as far as getting all the hardware dealt with. I might take it apart on the front, clean it up, get all the old dirt and rust and stuff dealt with on it. For being 40 something years old, this tractor doesn't have a whole lot of rust on it. But then, like I said earlier, or if I didn't say it, I'm about to say it, this was garage kept. Gotta put our access door back on. The only reason this door was off was because I thought I could get to the levers without having to take the battery tray back out, but I was wrong, which is fine, because battery tray is not that hard to get out, and so, you know, a couple screws and you're done, really. And of course, it wouldn't be one of our videos if there wasn't a train in the background. I don't even know why they're running. It's Sunday. This could be considered a Can We Fix It Sunday, episode 4 if we want it to be, which is can we get our PTO to function? And we're about to find out, because I'm going to put a battery in this. We're going to start it up. I'm going to move some levers. You're going to, the middle lever and the outer lever, you're not going to be able to tell if they're working or not, because they run the front hydraulics. So if I had an attachment hooked to the front of the tractor, you could see them moving. Because one of them moves it up and down, and then one of them, the other one moves it side to side, kind of like on like a skid steer or something. So, got to get our battery, which is right here. We're ready to put our battery back in. Now this is supposed to have a tie down that goes inside that hole right there. And as soon as I get a part number, I'll be able to source me out one, and then we'll put a battery holder in here. But for right now, it just sits in here. It's big enough and heavy enough, it don't go anywhere. It just sits in there just like that. We hook up our positive over here like this. Just kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Take your screwdriver and you tighten up your connection here. And then I'll have to go get a key, and then we'll fire it up and see what we got. Now our terminal came loose, so we're going to have to tighten up our negative. I'm sure that's bound to happen. Of course, I think I might want to loosen that nut up just a little bit and rotate that cable extension down a little bit. I think I did that yesterday too. Loosen up this nut right here if you can. Just enough to rotate that down. You want to rotate that down and then tighten it back up. Make sure your ground's good. And of course our wing nut came loose, so we'll tighten up our wing nut. Our wing nut. Get our terminal down on there, and we'll tighten up our negative, and then I'll run and grab us a key, and we'll get you in some viewing positions, and we'll fire the old man up and see if our hydraulic moves. If it moves, then we're going to do a separate video on how to change your transmission fluid, which is also your hydraulics. So we're going to get you out of under the hood here, and I'll be right back. Let's see if she'll start, or he'll start. Oh, we got to pull our pliers off of there. All right. I think we got it fixed. The only reason it was slamming real hard when we first started moving it was because there was probably an air bubble trapped in there from it not being used. But we have all 3 levers working now. We got our trailer hitch portion moving up and down. Now I've got to figure out how to fix the trailer hitch, because I'll show you here. It's kind of wobbly. It is a little wobbly. So I got to get that fixed so that we can hook it up to the big trailer over there at the shop. We don't have to use the truck anymore when we need to move the trailer for mowing. We can just hook it up to the tractor here and pull the trailer wherever we need it. We don't have to fire up the truck and move the truck around unless we're going to park the truck somewhere. But yeah, I got a tire tube coming in on Friday. We're going to get that tire patched up. I'm going to take it over to Discount Tire, not a sponsor. And we're going to get the tire tubed, and then all 4 wheels will hold tire air again. We're going to do the fluid change in the next video, so stay tuned for that. And we got a fuel leak off the tank, but I have to figure out whether it's the valve that's bad or if it's leaking from the tank, and you'll see that too. But for right now, we got her done, and we'll see you on the next one.